Hey everyone, welcome back to Nova Pain and Rehab Center. So today we're going to wrap up our mobility series. We're going to talk about mobility for the hip. This is a hip specific and we'll go through 3 movements today to kind of show you different angles and different muscle groups and some very simple things you can do to stretch your hips out. So if you have chronic hip problems, this is a great video to watch for any functional athlete, squats, deadlifts. Great video to watch. These are very simple movements that can be done at home. You can incorporate them into your workout routine, so particularly if you're having issues with squat type movements. Okay, so let's go through some anatomy. Okay, so the first movement we're going to do today is called the couch stretch. So this is a combination stretch. It stretches 2 different muscle groups depending on the position that you're kind of working. So one of them is your psoas, which we have right here. This is your psoas muscle. This is a very common muscle that we work with in therapy. It attaches to 4 segments of your low back, your lumbar spine, and then wraps around the front of your hip into the front portion of your hip capsule. So people who typically have pain or tightness in this muscle will complain of back pain and pain in the front of the hip. The other muscle group is your quadriceps. And your quadriceps are made up of 4 different muscles. And again, this is kind of a combination stretch for the 2, okay? So let's get into this. So the position here is she's kneeling down on some pads. The foot goes up behind. And so if you look at the foot, it's up on our rail system behind. And the first move we're going to do is for the psoas. So she's going to lean forward with her leg back and open up the hips. Okay, it looks like a lunge stretch or a runner stretch, some people may call it. And again, the muscle group here that's being stretched is the hip flexor or the piriformis. Now, if you lean back, create more flexion of the knee, now you're stretching the quadriceps. So very good combination stretch. I've had a few trainers mention that this is probably a stretch you want to do in every workout for your lower body. Okay, so called the couch stretch. Very easy position. You can put your leg up on the side of your bed, table, any elevated position, but the key is just a knee on the ground, leaning forward, working both of those muscle groups. Okay, so the next movement we're going to get into is specifically for the hip capsule itself. We call this hip flossing in rehab. I'm sure it has many more names for it, but it's just some really good movements that you can do to stretch the hip capsule. Now the hip is a ball and socket joint. As you can see, the head of the femur is going into the acetabulum or the hip capsule. So you have what's called circumduction, quite a bit of range of motion with this joint. We're going to specifically work on 3 of those movements with these stretches. Okay, so what we've done here is we're using a band on this one. The band's going around the back of the leg and coming forward. So you see it's on the back of the leg. And this is, again, it's an accentuated stretch for the hip flexor, the psoas, and it's bringing the leg forward, so it's bringing the head of the bone out of the capsule. As she's leaning forward into that, it's really getting a good stretch, elongated stretch of the hip flexors. So this is a different way to do that. Pulling out the anterior part of the hip. Okay, so second part of the stretch is we're going to go down on all 4s, bring that band out to the side. You can get a pretty big pull. The band's coming to the leg, and now you're pulling the leg out to the side. So you're opening the hip capsule up to the lateral position, and then you can just go back and forth. Just sit back, come forward, work on that movement. You'll feel that stretch through the hip capsule. It's really good stretch. Most people are very tight on the muscles on the inside of their legs, called their adductors, adductors. This is just a really good way to help to move those a little bit and to stretch the hip out. Okay, so the third position, now we're going to face the opposite way. So now the band's pulling back. It's going to pull the head of the bone, the femur, into the back of the hip capsule. And same thing, what she's doing here is she's just going back and forth. Working that movement, you get a nice pull through the back of the hip, pulling that bone into the back of the hip capsule. With both the hip and the shoulder, that joint is most stable when the head of the bone is in the back of the capsule. And so this is a finishing movement for that. Okay, very good. So the third one we're going to get into today is in yoga is called the Pigeon Pose. We also call this a figure 4 stretch. This is going to be stretching this muscle group, particularly this muscle called your piriformis. Very, very tight in most people, especially if you have any type of low back or sacroiliac instability. Okay, so this is a muscle right there we're looking at. Okay, so we have two positions we're going to show you. We're going to show you the upward position and then the lower position of this stretch, the pigeon pose. So this is going to be the upward position here. The leg goes in kind of a figure 4 position across the body. You'll feel like kind of in your butt stretch. So that's the upper position. Second position is we're going to come down, lay over that front leg. And now you're going to really feel that good stretch through that. Make sure that the opposite leg is extended behind you. That's it. Very, very, very good stretch for maintenance of both the hips and the pelvis. Okay. Other side. See it there? Very good. Okay. Thank you. Okay. So today went through a couple simple movements for the hip. Great movements is just for maintenance or for basic hip stability. With any of these movements, as we always mention, if you have any consistent pain with these, it may not be the best for you. If you have hip issues that these are not resolving, you can always contact one of our clinics and come in, and we'll be more than happy to check you out. You can visit our Purcellville location on our website at novarehab.com, and then our Arlington location is novapainandrehab.com. And we'll look forward to seeing you on the next video. Thank you.